I know there's a name for this and I can't think of what it is, but it's basically a rule that says if you set yourself a certain number of tasks to do by a certain time, like I'm gonna do these 3 tasks by noon, then you're gonna spread those 3 tasks over by noon. But if you say I'm gonna do these 6 tasks by noon, then you're gonna get those 6 tasks done. Somebody please in the comments tell me what that is. I know it's a thing and I can't think of what it's called. But anyway, this is like a very real thing for me when I'm scheduling my ghostwriting work, because I do break up the drafts I have to write and set my tasks based on word counts. It's just the most logical way for me to do it. Now, last week in my vlog, I shared that my goal for the week was to write an outline for a client. And this is a client where I have a 65,000 word book due at the end of March. And I got that done. And you know, it's that whole thing where you have a little bit of success and it sparks motivation, and then you try for a little bit more next week. And that was definitely how I was feeling over the weekend. Like Sunday, when I was laying out my schedule for the week, I felt good. I felt like, okay, I want to tackle some big stuff this week. I want to get stuff done. And so the next thing on my list is I have a 55,000 word book that's due at the end of February. And while the other client is reviewing the outline I sent her, I want to go ahead and get started on this draft. I was playing with how many days do I want to take to write it, how many words per day, what's the right level of words, because if I set it too low, then I know I'm just going to spread those words out over the day, and it's ultimately going to be kind of a waste of time because I can write faster than that. But if I set the word count too high, then it's going to seem like an insurmountable mountain at the beginning of the day, and I'm going to lose all my motivation. And what my low is and what my high is and the sweet spot, they kind of change. I couldn't tell you like just any specific numbers. Sometimes, you know, 2,000 words is too little. And honestly, sometimes 2,000 words is too much. It really just depends. But like I said, I was feeling motivated over the weekend, and I decided I'm ready to do some big word counts. Like, I'm ready to write this draft. But I decided I'm gonna take a slightly different approach. Normally with my ghostwriting clients, what I do is we write the outline together. It's a very detailed scene by scene outline. The client and I have gone over it, and I can write a pretty quick and pretty clean first draft because the outline is so detailed. And that's the case with this client. We have a great outline. I don't know what made me decide to do this. It was just how I felt like going about this particular project, but I decided instead of dividing up however many days I want to work on this over the next month or so, and how many words per day that's going to be, allowing for time a couple of days at the end to read through it and do an editorial pass so that it's cleaned up, I decided, you know, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to write Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday on this book. I'm still saving Wednesdays for my book. And then Friday, I'm going to take that to be like an editorial pass day of everything I've written. And then I'm going to repeat that every week until the book is done, which I think comes out to, because I should have mentioned this first, 5,500 words per day. So 500,000 words per day, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and then revise and clean up all of those words Friday, and then repeat, etc. So the actual writing, that's 10 days because it's a 55,000 word book. That's how I came up with that number. And the way it works out is, you know, I do have some other tasks to take care of, some other smaller client tasks, but I should be able to be finished with this by the end of January, which gives me an entire month before it's due to put it away and then give it one final big editorial pass. And that way I think I'm going to be turning a cleaner draft into the client, because I will have done a small round of edits in chunks and then one big edit at the end. Now, why I kind of landed on this is because yesterday, Sunday, when I was planning my week, I was thinking about the first chapter, and I was thinking about how first chapters for me are almost always like one of the slowest parts of the draft, because you're finding the voice, you're finding your way into the scene, you're finding your way into the story, you're trying to figure out where to lay all the important information that the reader needs without weighing it down. I do have a slight advantage with this book because it is a sequel to a book I ghost wrote last year, so I do know the character and I know the voice and I know the style. That's all done, but you know what I mean. First chapters are hard, and I knew I was going to be a little bit slow, and I wanted to free my brain up from worrying about you know, the prose because I know I'm going to be editing it later. And so what I decided is to take the whole Rachel Aaron 2K to 10K approach where, you know, she talks about how before she writes a scene, she summarizes it or writes kind of a rough draft of it really fast. I'm doing my own version of that. I decided the deal I made with myself was when you get up Monday morning, you are going to write until you have 5,500 words. You are not going to go anywhere or do anything except to get up and get more coffee and maybe get up to pee. and try to keep your hands moving. Now, it's not a super rough draft. It's not like my NaNoWriMo draft. It's a real draft with dialogue and stuff. But the point of it is I didn't want to get bogged down trying to come up with the perfect phrase because that's what Friday is for. Draft on Monday, draft on Tuesday, draft on Thursday, fix it Friday. So anytime I came up with a phrase that was like, oh God, I could word that so much better. Nope, fix it Friday. Keep going. And that was the mentality I used. So I woke up at 6 this morning, took Rosa out, made some coffee. By 7 o'clock, I was writing. By noon, 5,500 words. It was done. And here's the funny thing is I went back and looked at what I wrote. And the first page is the worst page. Like I said, I was finding my way into the story, but because I was insisting to myself that I can't stop typing, I was just letting it kind of not be that great. It's not my best writing, but I know I can fix it. And then as the draft goes on, it gets better. The last 10 pages are actually really good. Like I kind of hit my stride, gone into the flow state, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I worked for, 5 straight hours, pretty much without stopping, you know? So when I edit on Friday, I'm gonna have to spend a lot of time on page 1, a good amount of time on page 2, but by the time I get to page 10, it's gonna be a little bit better. By the time I get to page 20, it's gonna be pretty clean, you know? And yeah, it's just, I feel like that was a fun little, one of those writerly mind games that I just played, a little trick on myself that got me to write a pretty decent first couple of chapters to this book a lot faster than I would have if I hadn't made this deal with myself that I was gonna give it a little pass on Friday. Anyway, I don't know if this is all like actually saving me time or not, but I do think it's helping me ensure that I am going to deliver ultimately a much more polished book to my client. So anyway, that's been my work day today. And now I wanted to go over some of the questions that you guys asked on my last freelance blog. I put out a call for questions. What questions do you have about freelance life? And I want to spend a few minutes in each of these vlogs going over some of those questions. You guys asked a lot of questions. I appreciate that. Thank you for the content. So for today, I think I'm just gonna pick 3, and every week I'll pick 3 more, and I'm keeping track, so if you have more, just add them to the comments below. The first one is pretty relevant to what I just talked about. What advice do you have for time management on freelance jobs? And I feel like a lot of what I just rambled about is pretty relevant to that. Time management is, oh, this is so cheesy, but it's not a destination, it's a process. I know we can say that about so many things, but I really think it's true. The truth is, you'll probably find a schedule that works for you where you're using your time to your, maximum best, but it is going to change from week to week. And not just because life happens, not just because sometimes you find yourself taking your dog to the vet unexpectedly, things come up, but also just because from day to day, your best effort might be different. I have had a handful of days where my best effort included writing 10,000 words in a day. And I have had days where my best effort was 1,000 words. And I mean, that was honestly, truly the best I could do that day. It wasn't for lack of trying. And that's just talking about word counts. We could be talking about anything here. So I know I've said this a lot before, and I'm gonna give credit to Caro Brown because she's the first person I heard say it, but I think the most effective time management tip I have ever heard when it comes to managing my schedule is to always plan your week or your month or whatever, like assume you're going to have a cold, assume you're going to be just a little bit sick, not so sick that you can't work. but sick enough that it's gonna slow you down. And keeping that in mind every time I make my schedule has helped stop me from overloading my days, because I get super focused on goals and I'm always looking for ways to like, oh, could I turn that in sooner? Could I finish that sooner? And I put a workload for myself every day that technically is possible, but only if my best is here and not if my best is here. You know what I mean? So yeah, build in a little flexibility to your schedule. If you're a freelancer, you're setting your own schedule for the most part. So please, take advantage of that. My other big tip, and this is something I have been talking to a lot of friends about recently who are also freelancers, is really drawing boundaries and not being afraid of saying no or not right now. I have this compulsive need when I get a request, like a new request from a client, whether it's an older client or a new client, to just, if they're like, can you, I'd love for you to do this project, can you do it and turn it in 4 months? 4 months is a reasonable deadline if I have nothing else on my plate, but like right now my schedule is full and has, it's booked through the beginning of April. So that would be really actually pretty difficult for me. And my compulsion is still to say, yeah, no, I can do that. And then like look for a way to squeeze it in. You don't need to do that. You can say no. And I have found that when I have clients, especially ones that I already have a working relationship with, when they come to me and they're like, I really need your help on this. I got feedback from an editor. Can you do this revision? Can I hire you to do this like in the next couple weeks? When I'm like, I can't do that right now, but I could start on it next month and get it to you, by the end of that month. Or, I'm making that up, but something like that. Every time that's happened, the client's been like, great, awesome. They're not upset. The world didn't end. It's okay. It's okay to draw boundaries. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to say not right now. That's a big one for me. How did you balance client work when you had contracted writing from a publisher to do? That's been the case for me. I mean, most of this past year and definitely for a lot of 2020. Now I'm finished with my Scholastic books, so I don't have anything contracted with a publisher. Honestly, I treated it all the same. I just break things down by word counts. I've been writing books for so long now, and especially when we're talking about middle grade, which is just my sweet spot as a writer, I can look at a book, I can look at a project, whether it's my own or a client's, and be like, okay, here's what I have, here's how long the book is supposed to be, this is how long it's going to take me to make the outline, this is how long it's going to take me to write the draft. And I just use that and I break it down kind of mathematically, as you saw me do at the beginning of this video. How many days, weeks, etc. am I going to need to do this? And then how many can I do at one time? And very often when I say I'm writing, let's say for example, I'm writing 3 books right now. Like I have one of my own and 2 clients. That doesn't mean I'm working on all 3 of those every week. I might write an outline and send it to a client, and then write the full draft for one client and send it to her, and then take the other client's feedback on the outline and write that draft. It really just depends, but I break it down mathematically. I mean, I really don't know any better way to say it, and it came from years and years of just knowing how long it takes me to do certain things. And when I say years, I mean, I started writing in 2007. I sold my first book in 2011 and it came out in 2014, and I started ghostwriting. I mean, I've been doing IP work since 2012, 2013, and I started ghostwriting on my own in 2018. So it's been a while. I've had some years to just kind of get that experience under my belt and know when I can take something on and how much I can handle at one time. Do you consider YouTube a freelancing endeavor or just a hobby? I would say I consider it something kind of in between. It's kind of like an addition to my freelancing career, but I don't really think of it as a significant part of my career completely on its own. And I guess that could change one day, but I mean, I'll just be honest about it. Right now, between AdSense revenue and the monthly revenue I get on my Skillshare courses, which I kind of credit to YouTube because most of the views I get on those courses come from people following links for my YouTube videos over. Between the two things, I will make anywhere between like $300 and, in really good months, $500 a month. And that's great. I mean, that's nice. It's great to have a couple $100 extra a month. It's awesome, and I really appreciate it. But for me right now, the real value in having this YouTube channel has been sending people to my courses, getting invitations that I would never have gotten otherwise. I've spoken at some summits. You guys have heard me talk about that before. In fact, I got a really exciting invitation to be interviewed on a podcast that I have been subscribed to for years. And more about that, because that interview is going to happen in February and the episode should be out in March. I was blown away when they reached out to me because I'm a fan. And it was because they watched my YouTube channel. Like, they told me in the email. I get requests to do like school visits and stuff, virtual school visits, specifically because people saw my YouTube channel. And similarly, it's also free. Well, I guess I'm working because I make the videos and edit them, but it really is like free advertising for my ghostwriting services, because I have had so many clients reach out to me through Reedsy and say, hey, I love your YouTube channel and I think you would be a great ghostwriter for this book. Can I hire you? And that's awesome. It gets me more clients. And yeah, it's again, I hesitate to call it free, but it's definitely, it doesn't cost me money. It costs me time, but it's also super fun. I feel like it's doing for me what social media is supposed to do for you. And social media does do this for a lot of people. A lot of people, all the stuff I just said, they get the same, the same benefits through Instagram or through TikTok or whatever they're doing because they're good at it. I'm not good at it. I don't like social media. I don't like any of those platforms, but I really love making YouTube videos, and I enjoy the entire process of it. And the super fun benefit to that is that it's been helping me get speaking engagements. It helps me get ghostwriting clients, and it gives me a little bit of extra money every month. So definitely not just a hobby, but it's not its own separate thing in my head. It's like the marketing part of the rest of my freelance career, if that makes sense. Anyway, I hope that was helpful, guys. I'm a little bit brain fried right now because of the intense morning I had, so I'm gonna turn this camera off, edit this video, and then turn my brain off and relax for the rest of the day. I hope you're doing great, and I will see you later this week with another video. Bye.